TikTok diets look harmless at first. A 30-second video, a confident voice, a body that seems to prove the point, a promise wrapped in simplicity. Cut this food, drink this every morning, eat like this for 7 days, and suddenly you feel like you've discovered a secret that everyone else somehow missed. It feels empowering, like clarity in a world that's too loud. But for so many women, that clarity slowly turns into confusion, discomfort, bloating, mood swings, anxiety around food, skin flares, missed periods, exhaustion that doesn't make sense, and a quiet feeling that something inside is no longer working the way it used to. What almost no one talks about is that these diets aren't just changing what you eat. They're changing how your gut communicates with your hormones, your nervous system, your emotions, and even your sense of identity. And that damage doesn't happen all at once. It happens subtly in ways that are easy to dismiss until one day you realize your body no longer feels like a safe place to live. The gut is not a simple tube that reacts predictably to rules. It's a living ecosystem, deeply connected to the female body in ways that are still being underestimated. Hormones don't float separately from digestion. Emotions don't live only in the mind. Inflammation doesn't stay contained in one organ. When something disrupts the gut repeatedly, especially in a restrictive, high-stress, high-guilt way, the effects ripple outward. TikTok diets are particularly dangerous because they're designed for speed, not context. They compress complex biological systems into aesthetic soundbites. They turn nourishment into performance. And they reward extremity, not sustainability. The more dramatic the rule, the more viral it becomes. And women, who are already conditioned to monitor, control, and critique their bodies, absorb these messages deeply. Many of these diets revolve around elimination. Cut carbs, cut sugar, cut seed oils, cut gluten, cut dairy, cut fruit, cut anything that spikes insulin, cut anything that feeds bacteria, cut anything that causes inflammation, cut until your plate becomes smaller and smaller and your fear becomes larger and larger. At first, you might feel lighter, less bloated, more in control. That initial relief is real, but it's also misleading. Relief doesn't always mean healing. Sometimes it just means suppression. The gut adapts quickly. When you remove foods, certain symptoms can quiet down, not because the root issue is resolved, but because you've reduced stimulation. It's like turning down the volume instead of fixing the speaker. Over time, though, the gut learns scarcity. It learns unpredictability. It learns stress. And the female gut, in particular, is extremely sensitive to perceived threat. Restriction is a form of stress, even when it's chosen willingly, even when it's framed as clean or healthy. When the body senses ongoing restriction, it doesn't interpret it as discipline or self-improvement. It interprets it as danger. And one of the first systems to respond to danger is digestion. Blood flow shifts away from the gut. Motility changes, stomach acid can drop, enzyme production can decrease. The gut lining can become more reactive. And because the gut is a major player in hormone metabolism, especially estrogen, these changes don't stay local. They echo into the menstrual cycle, the skin, the mood, the energy levels, and the way emotions are processed. This is where many women get stuck in a confusing loop. They follow a TikTok diet, they feel better for a few weeks, then symptoms return, often differently. More constipation instead of bloating, more anxiety instead of fatigue, more cravings instead of appetite suppression. So they assume the diet stopped working because they weren't strict enough, and the answer, according to the algorithm, is always more restriction. What's rarely acknowledged is that the gut doesn't thrive under constant rules. It thrives under rhythm, diversity, and safety. Safety is not something you can hashtag, but it's something the nervous system feels. And without nervous system safety, digestion becomes fragile. Many viral diets also ignore the cyclical nature of the female body. Hormonal needs shift throughout the month, appetite shifts, blood sugar tolerance shifts, stress resilience shifts. But TikTok diets tend to flatten women into a male metabolic model that prioritizes consistency and rigidity. When a woman's body doesn't respond the same way every day, she assumes something is wrong with her, not with the model. This disconnect creates shame, and shame is inflammatory. not metaphorically, physiologically. Shame activates stress pathways. It tightens the gut. It alters the microbiome. It changes how pain is perceived. When food becomes a moral issue, digestion suffers. There's also the issue of food fear. Many TikTok diets teach women to see food as a threat to hormones, a threat to the gut, a threat to skin, a threat to weight. Over time, this constant vigilance trains the brain to associate eating with danger. Even if the food itself is nourishing, the emotional context isn't, and the gut listens to that context. You can eat the most perfect meal on paper and still feel bloated, nauseous, or uncomfortable if your nervous system is braced. Digestion is not just chemical, it's relational. It responds to how you feel about what you're eating, how rushed you are, how much pressure you're under to do it right. TikTok diets also tend to swing between extremes. One week it's carnivore, the next it's raw vegan, then it's liquid fasting, then it's protein only, then it's fruit only. The gut experiences these swings as instability. Microbes that help digest certain foods diminish when those foods disappear. When the foods return suddenly, the gut struggles. This isn't a personal failure, it's basic biology, but the narrative online turns it into a flaw. Your gut is damaged. You're inflamed. You need to detox. Detox language is particularly harmful because it implies that the body is dirty, clogged, or failing at its most basic function. In reality, the gut and liver are constantly processing, filtering, adapting. When digestion feels off, it's often a sign of overload, not impurity. More restriction doesn't clean the system. It often overwhelms it further. For women, this overwhelm often shows up emotionally before it shows up physically. Increased irritability, feeling disconnected from hunger cues, crying easily, feeling numb around food, losing joy in eating. These are gut signals too. The gut produces neurotransmitters. It communicates with the brain through multiple pathways. When it's under chronic stress, emotional regulation shifts. Skin is another place where this damage becomes visible. Many women turn to TikTok diets hoping to fix acne, eczema, or dullness. Sometimes symptoms improve briefly, reinforcing the belief. But long-term restriction can impair nutrient absorption, disrupt hormone clearance, and increase systemic inflammation. Skin becomes reactive, healing slows, breakouts move or change pattern. And again, the response is often to cut more foods. What gets lost in all of this is trust. Trust in the body, trust in hunger, trust in pleasure, trust in intuition. TikTok diets teach women to outsource their internal signals to external rules, to override hunger with timers, to override cravings with substitutes, to override discomfort with discipline. Over time, the gut loses its voice, not because it's broken, but because it's no longer being listened to. The irony is that many of these diets claim to heal the gut, but healing implies repair, gentleness, responsiveness. What's happening instead is control. Control disguised as care. And control, especially when fueled by fear, rarely leads to long-term stability. This doesn't mean every dietary trend is inherently bad. Curiosity about food can be healthy. Experimentation can be informative. But TikTok collapses nuance. It turns personal anecdotes into universal rules. It removes the part where context matters. Your history matters. Your stress levels matter. Your cycle matters. Your emotional relationship with food matters. When those things are ignored, the gut pays the price. Many women don't realize their gut issues started with a diet that worked. The weight loss came, the compliments came, the sense of achievement came, but underneath, the system was compensating, and compensation has a cost. Eventually, the body asks for repayment, often in ways that feel inconvenient, embarrassing, or scary. Bloating that no longer responds to elimination, constipation that alternates with urgency, a feeling of heaviness after meals, random intolerances that seem to multiply. Anxiety that spikes around food choices. These aren't signs that you need a stricter diet. They're signs that the gut is tired. The female gut doesn't want perfection. It wants predictability without rigidity. It wants nourishment without fear. It wants variety without chaos. And it wants permission to change. One of the most damaging aspects of TikTok diets is how they frame discomfort as weakness. If you feel worse, it means you're detoxing. If you're bloated, it means your gut is healing. If you're exhausted, it means you're not adapted yet. This gaslighting keeps women pushing through signals that are meant to slow them down. Discomfort can be part of change, but chronic distress is information. Ignoring it doesn't make you strong. It makes you disconnected. And disconnection is where gut issues thrive. There's also a social layer to this that rarely gets acknowledged. TikTok diets create communities around shared restriction. Belonging becomes tied to adherence. Questioning the diet feels like questioning the group. For women who already struggle with identity and self-worth, this dynamic is powerful. Letting go of the diet can feel like losing a part of yourself, but your gut is not an accessory to your identity. It's a foundation. And when it's destabilized, everything built on top of it wobbles. If any of this feels familiar, it's not because you're broken. It's because your body is responding logically to an illogical environment. An environment that rewards extremes, ignores female physiology, and turns nourishment into content. Understanding this can bring relief. Not the relief of a quick fix, but the relief of context. The relief of realizing that the problem isn't a lack of willpower. It's a mismatch between what your body needs and what you've been told it should tolerate. The gut doesn't need another rule. It needs space. Space to recalibrate. Space to feel safe. Space to communicate without being overridden. And maybe the most radical thing a woman can do in a culture of viral diets is to pause, to notice, to ask what feels supportive instead of what looks impressive, to choose curiosity over punishment. If this perspective resonates with you, if you've felt confused or frustrated by your gut despite doing everything right, you're not alone. Your experience makes sense, and it deserves more than a 30-second answer. If you want to share your story, your confusion, or even your anger about how food content has impacted you, leave a comment. These conversations matter more than algorithms. If this helped you see your gut in a different light, liking the video helps more women find it. And if you want more honest, grounded conversations about the female gut, hormones, and the emotional side of health that rarely gets talked about, subscribing keeps you connected. Your gut isn't failing you, it's responding. And learning to listen again might be the beginning of real healing, not the kind that goes viral, but the kind that lasts.